Rita. Il n'y a pas la parité là, carrément là, c'est beaucoup
C'est
plus
bien.
de. Enfin, c'est bien, mais c'est le sens inverse là, c'est bien.
Alors j'ai le grand plaisir
It's
donc,
my great pleasure
de présenter
to introduce
de l'Innocent.
the team from The Innocent.
Anne-Dominique Toussaint, la
Anne-Dominique
productrice.
Toussaint, the producer.
Monsieur Roche-Dizem.
Roshdi Zem.
La merveilleuse Anou
The
Grimbert.
wonderful Anou Grambert.
Et le réalisateur, scénariste, acteur. de
And
son film,
the
Louis Garrel.
director, scriptwriter, and actor in the film, Louis Garrel.
Alors bien sûr, vous
Of
levez la main
course.
quand vous voulez poser une
Raise your
question.
hand
Je
if
pose
you
la
want to
première
ask a
question
question. I'll
traditionnelle
ask the first
pour lancer.
question, as is usual, to get things going.
Louis Garrel bavarde.
Pardon.
Louis Garrel is very garrulous.
Je vais commencer par vous.
I'll
Louis.
begin with you, Louis.
Si j'essaye de résumer, est-ce que
Just to
vous
sum
avez
things up,
voulu faire un
did you
marivaudage
want
policier?
to make a sort of a comic thriller?
En quelque sorte, mais il fallait.
Well, sort
Je
of.
savais que le film allait être un
I
film
knew
dit
the
de
film
braquage.
was going to be like a
C'est qu'on rentre
hold-up.
tout de suite en rivalité avec les
but,
films américains.
That would make
Je ne voulais absolument pas
me
rentrer en
have to
rivalité avec les
compete
Américains ou
with
faire semblant
American
de faire
films.
un faux film
And I didn't
américain,
want
parce
to make a film that would be viewed as a sort of a fake American one. We don't have the wherewithal to do that. So I thought it would be a Poitou-Charentes hold-up. It had to be very, very French. This is a lesson that I received from Jean Renoir when I was very young. I read one of his interviews when he was asked, what advice would you give to young directors? He said, if you want to interest, that's my ambition, I hope people outside France will want to watch it. If you want other people to be interested in your film, you have to talk about something that you really know about well. Marivaux is a well-known French author. I didn't want to make a sort of a marivaudage between lovers, mistresses, somebody hiding in the cupboard. I wanted to combine this with the idea of a hold-up. That would be typically French. You have a lot of French songs in the film. When I watch an Italian film and the music is American, I think, oh, why didn't they choose an Italian song or Italian music? A film is the sum of a given culture, after all. I'm very chauvinistic, as you can see. That's the sine qua non. Go ahead.
Non, parce que sur la chanson française,
French
c'est
songs.
François Truffaut lui-même qui disait que
François Truffaut himself said that popular songs are what bring people together, the most beautiful love songs, for example. And you have great love songs in your film. It took me a long time to do my coming out in that respect. I only listened to reality shows and very modern songs. And I thought to myself, well, why is variety so popular? Variety songs, variety music interests just about everyone. And I felt my film will have to look like that. It must tell a sentimental tale, granted, but we have to rope everyone in. It shouldn't just be based on a trivial incident. We have to use all the tools that we have in our toolbox for the cinema, and everyone has to be able to identify with it and enjoy it. It has to be a popular film. I have a question here.
Bonjour.
Hello.
Margot Costa pour Radio Campus Montpellier. Déjà, je voulais vous féliciter pour ce film.
I want to congratulate you on this film. I enjoyed it very much. In several scenes, I had the impression that I was watching something from a comic book. Did that inspire you when you were writing the film? The cinema owes a lot to comic books. because they're so very
Les
expressive.
situations soient on n'a pas beaucoup de temps. On a
You
une heure
don't
et
have
demie pour
much
raconter
time. You only have an hour and a half to tell the story.
Les grands génies ou les grands
And apart
poètes.
from great geniuses or great poets, when
on s'estime être plutôt narratif, ce que je suis, c'est-à-dire je raconte
you
l'histoire, il faut que
tell a story,
elles soient très claires.
the lines have to be very clear. And in a comic book, the lines are very clear. It's a bit like a cartoon almost.
Fuir le naturalisme.
I tried to run away from naturalism,
Il a pris trop de place dans le.
which has taken up far too much room in the cinema, in my view.
Le travail de l'acteur.
And the work of actors, therefore, is relegated to the sidelines.
Ou ce qu'il est à peu près.
Actors
Du coup, moi, je pense qu'au
are
cinéma, les gens
who
vont
they
au
are in
cinéma
real life. But I think people go to the cinema
sauf si on est
to
un
watch a real performance, unless you're a very great director or a poet like Bresson or Piala.
dans ces films, mais d'une certaine manière, il y a moins cette espèce de collusion entre.
You have less collusion between the actor and the character. You build up a whole new being, a character for the cinema.
Voilà, j'ai emprunté
And so what I did
de cartoon et de BD, parce que j'emprunte
was
à la BD de grosses situations
borrow
qui permettent aux
from
acteurs
comic
de pouvoir
books
jouer gros.
situations which enable the actors to play something really
C'est
clear-cut.
ce que je voulais depuis le départ.
The performance of the actors
Que j'espérais,
is the kind of performance I was looking for. I've worked with very great actors, and I wanted the performance to be truly spectacular. I wanted to ensure that the acting was really spectacular.
aussi une des raisons pour lesquelles
That's one of the reasons why
j'aime beaucoup le cinéma
everyone
américain.
likes the American cinema.
Il est aussi
The
très,
American
très-
cinema is also heavily focused on the actors.
Il y a une conférence. Alors, il l'a
There
fait aussi un peu par
was,
progression d'Orson Welles à la Fémis.
A
que
talk
j'avais
given
regardé,
by
j'aimais beaucoup parce qu'il
Orson
était
Welles at the
assistant
Femis,
metteur en scène de la Fémis, c'était de l'IDEC à l'époque. Il avait dit mais
and he said,
c'est vraiment que les
"Do you really think that the public goes to the cinema for the directors?
Hitchcock qui fait rentrer
Maybe Hitchcock attracts people to the movie theaters, but usually people go for the actors."
Je dis mais je crois un peu.
And I deeply believe that.
Je crois qu'il y a une
I think we have another question in the room.
Hi, good morning, Virginia Massadarasha from Italy. You talked about songs before, and I was wondering why did you choose those specific songs? There is a final song, which is, if I'm not mistaken, from Gianna Nannini, which is Italian. And I was wondering why that specific song. She's a singer that in Italy has a reputation as a strong, independent woman, such as your character portrayed by Noémie Merlan. I'm sorry for my pronunciation. So I was wondering if there are any connections between the songs and the characters in the movie. Thank you.
C'est drôle parce que les grands chanteurs, le public après se les approprie. Enfin, c'est comme si ça m'est arrivé une fois avec
Yes,
Fabrizio De André.
absolutely. With an Italian singer, people said, "Why did you choose this Italian singer?" As though the song belonged to that person.
Gianna Nannini, c'est la
Gianna
chanson,
Nannini,
on l'entend même dans
this
son grain de
is
voix. Il s'agissait dans le film que j'ai coécrit.
It's absolutely wonderful. And in the film I co-wrote, we needed to have very powerful, independent women who didn't need men because they existed in their own right. And you have this strong voice of this Italian singer who came to finish the film. And I wanted to end with the voice of a woman.
Alors justement, puisqu'on est sur les
Et c'était aussi, pardon,
Also, let me finish here.
emprunté à
I also
l'esprit du
wanted to
cinéma
borrow
italien
from
qui me
the
plaît,
spirit of the Italian cinema, which I love it because it heavily focuses on actors too. The Italian cinema works a lot in terms of what's tragic, what's comic, and I borrow a lot from that kind of genre, which is so common in the Italian cinema, and in Italian people, in fact. You're all actors, even in the street. When you see people in the street in Italy, you think they're all actors. The guy who serves me a pizza in a restaurant is like an actor.
Je crois que
Bonjour, Jérôme Romain de
Hello.
J'ai été fait à Nantes.
I come from Nantes.
La technique du split screen à un moment donné.
You
dans le film,
use a split screen in the film.
on voit juste votre regard en bas de l'écran.
You can see just your look at the bottom of the screen. It's like American thrillers in the 70s.
Pourquoi ce choix
Why this
Il me
choice?
rappelle aussi un épisode de Columbo.
It makes me think of a scene from Columbo.
Choisis ce-
Why did you choose this technique, the split screen?
Par plaisir de...
Because I wanted to.
Plaisir de cinéphile. Alors, elle a été
As a cinema
il y a
buff,
l'Étrangleur de Boston, qui est
you have the Boston Strangler, where they use a lot of split screens,
très brillamment par
and
De
this was
Palma.
briefly used by De Palma as well.
J'aimais bien l'idée que
I
dans
liked
ce
the
film, à un
idea
moment donné,
that at a given point in
je
time,
change de registre
as I
au fur et à
change
mesure du film,
register in the film,
faisait un film de
all of a
filature,
sudden,
c'est-à-dire
it's
de quelqu'un qui observe et
like
qui est en train d'espionnage. Parce que c'est des films d'espionnage.
spying on someone.
Les split screens, ils appartiennent aux films
Split
d'espionnage. C'est quelqu'un qui regarde
screens come from
un
spying
homme qui espionne un
films,
autre homme.
spy
C'est ce qu'on est
films.
en train de faire quand on regarde un film, en fait.
That's what you do when you watch a film. You're spying on others. The spectator, in fact, is spying on what happens in the film.
Théoriser à l'infini, mais
I can't provide really a theory, but it was just out of pure pleasure.
au cinéma.
I wanted to use this very artificial technique, which is common in the cinema. I wanted the film to be artificial.
Il joue avec plein de
I wanted to play around
de codes et aussi
with all these codes
de trucs du cinéma qui n'existent pas dans les autres arts.
and things that you have in the cinema, but not in the other arts.
Arrivé d'en faire un film et de jouer avec la voix off, le split screen.
I play around with voices in my films, and split screen is something you can't do in a theater, in a play.
Sur le fait des personnages.
I'd like to talk about the characters. The characters
Pas naturaliste.
are not at all natural. They're very written.
Et personnage de femme forte.
And you have this character of a very strong woman.
Vous avez dit des femmes qui ont
And
pas
you,
besoin des
you
hommes.
were frowning when we talked about men who don't, women who don't need men. But she's a woman who is so much in love. Is it a gift to have this kind of a script?
Elle est si vivante.
Yes,
si
she's
libre,
so alive, she's so free,
solaire, enfin,
and she's so radiant.
qui joue mon amoureux, on a l'impression
One has
qu'elle
the
éclaire de l'intérieur,
impression
mais on vit.
that
Moi, en plus,
she radiates from within.
de jouer des femmes
I'm accustomed to playing women who are very sad.
bonne humeur.
I don't know why, because I'm usually quite a happy person. For the first time, a director saw the son I have within me and knew how to pull the right strings.
Enfin, les deux femmes
The
sont
two women
fortes, elles
are
sont
very strong.
toniques, il ne faut pas les emmerder. Et
They don't want to be messed up with. They're free. They do exactly what they want.
elles choisissent.
And they make their own choices in life.
Elles ont vraiment besoin de l'amour.
But they really need love.
Vous avez pas besoin d'amour.
Bah, quand tu n'as pas besoin des hommes.
When you don't need men, you're in a bit of a mess.
Et Rochdi, la même question, mais
And the same question to Rochdi.
Vous qui jouez souvent justement
You
des
often
rôles virils et
play
cette espèce de
the part of very virile men.
extrêmement tendre
Yet here
qui panique complètement et qui fait un casse en fait.
you
par
have these
amour,
very
qui
tender
est un peu dans la
moments.
C'est
In
agréable de
fact,
voir ça, quoi.
you are so much in love. You do things out of love.
De Louis de me proposer ça, ce personnage un peu gauche.
The character is a bit clumsy. He's not a real bandit,
En sortant de prison, d'ouvrir une boutique.
a hardened criminal.
Oui, évidemment, ça me séduit. Parce que
I was very much
un côté
attracted
un
to the
peu
role because
dérisoire, comme ça, que j'aime beaucoup et qui
there's
vient casser un peu
something
justement les propositions qui
which
sont faites habituellement de personnages comme ça.
is very different in this character, different from what you're usually offered in the cinema.
charismatique et qui
He's
amène une
very
ambiance de rien.
charismatic. He's not afraid of everything. I like to portray
Par le sentiment,
characters who are very vulnerable and who are so moved by love.
tentative également, puisque quand on aime une femme, il faut
When you love a woman, you have to get along with her child as well.
Voilà, oui, bien sûr que ça me séduit.
So, of course, yes, I was deeply attracted to the person.
Bonjour, Stéphanie Olivi, Corriere della Sera. Et pour Louis Garrel, vous avez
Question
dit
to
qu'il y a
Louis
quelque
Garrel.
chose d'autographique dans
You
cette
said there was
histoire.
something autobiographic in this story.
Et
Could you
on
explain that a
puisse,
little bit?
cet aspect. Merci.
Oui, non, c'est autobiographique dans la mesure.
It's autobiographical.
Expérience.
Well, it's based on an autobiographical experience.
Ma mère a travaillé pendant
My
20
mother
ans en
worked
prison.
for 20 years in
Elle
a
a
prison.
animé elle a fait des films en prison.
She
Elle a
shot
fait des
films
spectacles
in
de théâtre pour moi
prison
toute ma
and
jeunesse,
put on plays in prison.
vers 9, 10
So,
ans à la maison,
when I
j'avais
was
des types
9 or
qui sortaient de
10,
prison, même des femmes, parce qu'elle a
I
elle a animé des ateliers.
met people who were just coming out of prison, both men and women. So it's a world I became familiar with when I was very young.
De manière très banale pour moi.
And for me, it was just a very run-of-the-place place. And I felt like
anecdotique. Il fallait que je fictionne énormément et que je fasse
creating a lot of fiction
de cinéma très
around
référencé.
the
Pour cette
prison.
raison-là aussi, pour pas faire une chronique.
I didn't want just
je sais pas, toute
to
monotone. Voilà.
create some
C'est
monotonous
bizarre, tout d'un coup, je me suis dit,
report on prison
vous savez,
life.
quand vous écrivez un film,
When you write a
vous sentez
film
bien que les acteurs
and
se
you really
saisissent
sense
des
that the
personnages.
actors
Un acteur,
are
il travaille
throwing
pas
themselves into their
avec
characters,
une mémoire qui lui appartient pas, il travaille avec sa mémoire.
actors
Donc, d'une
work
certaine
with
manière, le film
their
est
own
autobiographique
memory
chez
of
tout le monde,
things.
parce
So
qu'ils ont
it's
été obligés de travailler
autobiographical.
avec leurs sentiments ou avec
By nature, a film, the
émotions et
actors
leur
draw on
mémoire.
their own personal emotions and
Donc, je
experiences
trouve
when
que les
they're
personnages sont
playing a
réussis,
part.
il devient autobiographique de
When characters become really successful, it's because there's an element of autobiography there.
Bonjour. I will go in English, okay? So I would have two quick questions with Louis. First one, I would like to ask you, it's your fourth film, as I know, the fourth full feature. How do you feel in which part is more comfortable for you, like being actor or being director, and what are the difference with challenges? I mean, if you're standing behind the camera, how do you feel and what do you see? And has it changed? Does your attitude change after you start making films towards actors and towards yourself? And another one, you mentioned Italian cinema, and you played first major role in Bernardo Bertolucci's, one of my favorite directors' film. So, what do you think? How this film defined your future career as a filmmaker and as an actor? Thank you.
Bah, je dirais que quand vous êtes metteur en scène, la
When
grande
you're a
différence entre metteur en
director,
scène
the
et
big
acteur,
difference
c'est que
between being a director and
pendant la
being an actor
préparation et le tournage,
is that during
vous êtes
the
metteur en scène,
preparation
vous êtes
and the actual shooting, when you're a director, you have no personal life.
Non, elle continue.
But actors continue to have their own personal lives. Those are the main differences between the two.
C'est pas une question de préférence.
But it's not a question so much of preferences. The two jobs are extremely different.
Dans les 4 films que j'ai faits, je joue dans le film.
In my 4 films, I'm also an actor in the film.
Je pense à, je sais pas, à Roll Lloyd, des gens comme ça qui ont fait les deux.
A number of people have done likewise.
Je citerai pas Charlie Chaplin parce que
I won't talk about Charlie Chaplin because that would seem pretentious.
vous, Nanni Moretti.
But Nanni Moretti is a good example.
Le jeu
I like this game.
produit
That is, make a film where you're the actor as well, so the spectator gets a bit lost and doesn't know who's really telling the story. He forgets, and then he suddenly says, oh no, it's that person who's actually telling the story. As to the future, I really don't know. I certainly love acting for others.
Je peux pas dire qu'il y a un métier que je préfère, c'est comme deux.
I don't prefer one compared with the other. I like them both.
Ça, c'était Mastroianni qui avait dit ça.
Mastroianni said this in an interview. He said, actors
il faut tout leur passer, leur caprice.
are like 5-year-old children when they're on a set. They have all sorts of whims and fancies, but when you're a director, you can't be like that. You have to be like someone who's 70 years old with lots of experience and wisdom. It's totally different to be one or the other on a set. I can't say that one suits me more than another or that I prefer one compared with the other. It was fascinating throughout the day to see him move from being a director to become an actor and vice versa again. It was absolutely incredible to watch him. He's like in his element all the time. When he's an actor, he's totally an actor. And when he's a director, he's totally a director, and he can be both at the same time. Directors direct you and understand everything that's written on your face, even if they don't look at you. And sometimes he says, oh, no, come on. He's a pain. But there's such huge trust when you work with him. There's such tremendous trust. It's something I've never experienced in my entire career, which spans some 40 years. I don't know what it's like for you two. There are two different kinds of directors. You have directors who know how to act and directors who don't.
savent pas très
The
bien jouer,
latter
ils savent jouer. C'est vrai
are
que
very good directors, but they just don't know how to act.
je suis aussi acteur et que
As I'm an actor as well,
aussi la mise en scène, c'était
and
que je leur laissais pas assez d'espace quand je jouais avec eux. Où ils avaient
as
trop l'impression de voir un œil inquisiteur
director, I thought, well, I
le metteur en scène.
hope they don't feel I'm overly present as an actor,
Il y a un
analyzing every single thing they do.
qui est la règle du jeu que j'adore parce que c'est pas un défaut du film, mais je sais pas, il est très émouvant le plan. C'est Jean Renoir
Jean Renoir,
du jeu qui joue un personnage. dans
in
son film.
Les Règles du Jeu, plays a character in the film.
Se fout dans le
And the
ravin,
other
par désespoir,
character
et puis il sort, il l'engueule,
just
il dit, oh, ça suffit.
jumps
Et
into
en
a
fait,
ravine, and suddenly you see that he's become a director again because he's looking at the other actor and saying, oh, no, that was really clumsy. That was a wonderful scene.
Forcément, quand on fait les deux,
When you're both an actor and a director, when you're in both positions, you end up watching a lot of films. I love Suleiman's films, for example. You always try to see how a director who's also an actor in the film manages to direct the other actors,
pas dans le naturalisme non plus.
because he doesn't focus on naturalism either. He almost uses this idea of cartoons a lot.
Vous parliez de double.
You've been talking about being your own double, a sort of a double game.
C'est quoi jouer?
This is
C'est quoi
a
mettre en
film
scène, y compris
on
ses
what
propres
acting
sentiments.
is and
Il y a constamment
directing
des
is.
Il y a même des
You
le film commence
Go from one to the other. The film starts by leading you astray. Rushdie
justement en gangster.
is a gangster,
Et puis tout d'un coup, ce n'est pas ça. Et
and
il y a
then
la-
suddenly you realize, no, he's not
la
that
scène,
after all.
Absolument
And
incroyable.
then you
du
have the
restaurant,
incredible
où,
scene in the
tout est-
restaurant by the
tout n'est que mise en
roadside,
abîme des sentiments et du jeu.
and you have all
Ça,
the
c'était vraiment quelque chose sur lequel
feelings
vous aviez envie de
that
travailler.
transpire in the scene. You play around with this all the time in your
C'est des
film.
acteurs. Et au fond, dans le réel, pour dire là, la
In
maintenant,
real life,
ça c'est une des leçons aussi de Marivaux.
that's one of the lessons I learned from
Toujours les choses
Marivaux.
comme un jeu.
You always start things as though they were a game. In other
Le
words,
cas le plus basique de l'amour.
let's take the case of
On
love.
voit quelqu'un qui
You see someone
plaît.
who you like.
Bah, il a un air qui nous
I don't know. You think, I like that person. You're not yet in love with the person.
lui envoyer un signe d'un sentiment qu'on aurait
pretend
pour lui, mais pour voir si
To
en face il
send out a sign
si l'autre en face
to
répond, le
signal that
sentiment
you
qu'on
have
est en
feelings
train
for that
d'imiter,
person.
ouais, putain, en fait, il est en train de devenir
But
réel parce que c'est une
then
réponse.
you suddenly realize the
Cette
feelings
chose-là
are
de
becoming
limitation
real.
du sentiment, ou en tout cas
This
de
idea
l'expression
of
fausse du
limiting
sentiment qui
feeling, or
déclenche
a
un
fake
sentiment
expression of a feeling which leads to a real feeling, that's present in Marivaux's
visible
plays.
dans la vie de tous les jours, tout le temps.
That's visible in life every day. It's like a separation. When someone wants to break off from someone, it becomes like a bit of a game. The person acts this separation.
Choses-là auxquelles on est confronté
breaking
souvent
off.
dans le
And that's the kind of thing we have to contend with often in our jobs. We pretend
être emporté par un
something,
sentiment qu'on dirait
and then we
faux,
hope
au bout d'un moment, c'est un
we'll
vrai
be moved by what starts out as a fake feeling but turns into a real one because we play and act with our hands and with our bodies.
C'est ce qu'on apprend à l'école.
That's what we learn at
Toujours garder une distance.
theater school. You have to remain distant also from your character. When I started out as an actor, I heard about Dieudonné, who played Napoléon de Belgance.
Ça me faisait très, très
And
peur.
people always thought, well, now when
Certains acteurs, ils sont
everybody thinks of him as though he were just that character, and that scared me.
Ça m'arrivait.
I thought, oh dear, if that happened to me one day, I'd be Charles III on stage and Charles III in real life in people's eyes.
Du jeu qu'implique
It's a sort of a game.
l'investissement émotionnel qu'implique le jeu.
When you're acting, you have to invest emotionally in your character. You get lost in something which is actually fake or artificial, yet out of this artificial situation, the truth emerges.
Est-ce que c'est clair ce que je dis? Parce que c'est-
Is
excusez-moi,
what I'm saying clear? It may sound a bit complicated. It's certainly very intelligent.
Elle a bien aimé le tournage. Anne.
She really loved the film.
Et alors, on a vu, enfin, j'imagine que vous.
I imagine
On a vu hier le triomphe du
that
film.
yesterday you
Avec
sound
des éclats de rire
the wonderful
spontanés du public,
welcome
même des applaudissements
extended to this film, the spontaneous applause on several occasions in the film when there were very comic moments or with some of the lines.
Noémie Merlan. Cette notion du comique.
The idea of the comic side of the film.
Je vais dire ça, mais on dit que.
It sounds a bit trite, but people say that writing a successful comedy is very, very difficult.
à jouer.
And acting a comedy is tough too.
Enfin, chez vous, les acteurs, comme chez vous,
Mais je suis
scénaristes.
pas sûr que le scénario.
I'm not sure that the script reads like a comedy. No, what struck me in the script was the emotions.
C'est piégé, en tout cas parfois quand on dit ah voilà c'est une
Sometimes
comédie.
when you say, oh, this is a comedy,
Interpréter le personnage, on se dit ah bah je fais
you don't know how to interpret the character.
Et comme d'abord tu ne l'as pas vendu comme ça,
You didn't sell us the script as a comedy.
on n'a pas pensé.
So we
le
didn't
sentiment
actually
amoureux, on a voulu le jouer
think
à fond,
about this. We wanted to focus more
fallait.
on the loving relationship in the film.
Ah, pardon. Et ah oui, putain, oui. Ah, c'est mieux. Et,
Ah, that's much better.
et du coup, je ne sais plus où j'en étais. Oui, on a mis l'énergie qui nous
So
paraissait nécessaire pour.
we gave all the energy that seemed to be required for our parts. With a comedy,
Qui nous semble. C'est une erreur à mon avis.
And I think
On a
this
ce
is a
sentiment de
mistake.
connivence quand on fait une comédie.
you have this feeling of great connivance.
Dans le jeu, c'est-à-dire que dès qu'on avait l'impression de se dire c'est une comédie, donc faut y penser.
If
donc faut
people
pas
say,
hésiter à
oh,
avoir
it's a
l'équipe,
comedy,
etc.
remember your eyes should
Moi, j'ai abordé
twinkle.
ça, moi, en tout cas, j'ai abordé ce film avec le plus grand des sérieux, et je pense.
I approached this film in a very serious way, and I think that there's nothing more serious than a comedy.
T'as raison, non, c'est juste que je me disais pourquoi.
I was wondering why,
Parce que, de temps en temps, les gens, comme j'ai une réputation de
We
mec
so
vraiment
often,
très chiant,
as I have
on me
the
dit,
reputation
mais
of being a
selon la
real
vie, on me
pain,
rencontre, ils disent, ah, mais en
people
fait, c'était quand même assez drôle.
say
Pourquoi
to
tu fais
me,
pas des
oh,
comédies?
you were
Parce
actually
qu'aussi,
quite funny. Why don't you write a comedy?
Situation qui devient burlesque ou
A
comique. c'est des
situation
comédies
may
qui sont
become
obscènes.
burlesque, may become comic,
Obscènes
because
dans le
it
sens où elles sont complètement détachées de
becomes
l'existence.
obscene. It ceases to have any relationship with reality.
J'en sais rien. J'aurais vraiment dû.
The scene is overly fabricated.
Mel Brooks, par exemple, qui saurait peut-être théoriser
Maybe
là-dessus.
Mel
Je sais pas
Brooks
théoriser, mais
could
ce que je sais,
give you the
c'est
requisite theory.
évidemment
All I
plus
know is that
la situation est
the
solide,
more the
les
situation
sentiments
is
sont
well grounded,
vraiment très
the more
très tourmentés,
feelings are
plus ensuite, si on se permet de
tormented,
jouer un peu plus fort que
the
d'habitude,
more
alors la
you
comédie, elle est
overact,
acceptable.
and then comedy becomes acceptable. In a comedy, you have to agree to overact almost the human emotions.
Pour fuir le naturalisme.
It's a good way to
Puisque comédie dans ce film-là,
do something totally different from naturalism. In this film, I think it's both tragic and comic. That's why I love.
de le dire parce que les acteurs les
It
citent tout le temps,
sounds
mais en fait ils sont envieux
rather trite, but
de ces acteurs-là de Gassman, de Tony
Gassman and others, they are the envy of other actors because they've reached such a degree of truth that they can do anything they like.
très artificiels.
They can do very artificial things, artificial gestures, but
C'est vrai quand ils sont artificiels.
they're never so true as when they are artificial because there's this element of tragedy but comedy at the same time.
À Turin ou à Milan ou à Rome, mais c'est comme ça. Mais
I
je trouve que vous avez ça en vous.
I think you have that in you, you Italians.
Un homme,
You have this innate sense of what it means to be a human being.
et en même temps complètement
Life is ridiculous but tragic at the same time.
C'est l'accouplement de ces deux notions-là qui fait que
And
c'est
it's when you combine these two notions that you create funny situations.
Entre tragique.
Your character is both tragic and comic at the same time. There are different levels in the various couples. There's more comedy between you two because there's an element of paranoia. There's a lot of comedy between you two.
Pas de comédie,
And no comedy,
du sentiment pur entre
pure
vous deux.
feelings
Il y a
between
tout un
you
jeu, il y a une
two.
circulation où les
So-
sentiments et le niveau de jeu n'est pas le
The
même.
level of acting and the feelings are not the same. That's what's so amusing in the film because the couples don't have the same relationship. There isn't the same play between the two characters.
Et bon, ça c'est une leçon de John Cassavetes.
This is a lesson from John Cassavetes, who's probably the greatest director.
Qui est que les acteurs,
He said
c'est pour ça que
that
le
actors,
scénario
and
c'est
that's
sec, un
why
scénario, enfin,
you have,
si c'est un très grand écrivain ou un très grand
script.
poète qui écrit le scénario, il contient le monde.
if you have a great poet or writer who writes the script, it contains the entire world. I'm not great in that way. When I met Rochdi,
Je les ai
Anouk,
vus ensemble.
and Noémie, Merlon, and I saw them together.
Chacune mise ensemble, ça racontait
when
une
you
nouvelle chose,
combine
du message
their
du peuple.
presence, that
Donc, la deuxième
adds
écriture,
to the
après
characters.
l'écriture du scénario,
So after writing the script,
c'est la
there
présence
is
des
a new
acteurs.
way of writing which evolves with the presence of the actors.
Anouk, elle raconte chose seule, et puis mis ensemble,
You have Roshdi and you have Anouk, and then when they come together, you have this special chemistry,
entre ces deux personnes, parce qu'on imagine les
this
raisons pour lesquelles ils
amazing
s'aiment.
link between the two people, because you imagine the reasons why they love each other, or it becomes very Romanesque. You think one may love the other more than the other loves the first.
C'était Noémie et moi ensemble.
Noémie, you have Noémie and I together, and as I'm trying to
Moi, qui est que
run away from the danger of a tragic comedy,
c'est quand même le danger de la comédie romantique.
you have great danger in romantic comedies. So Noémie and I,
Sœur,
we
ah oui,
had
ils vont pas penser qu'on va finir ensemble.
this rather silly side to our relationship, so spectators wouldn't think we'd end up finishing our lives together. And then you have the two groups together and the interplay between them.
Bonjour, Martin Lhomme pour le podcast Ex Duquere. Vous et le Festival de Cannes, c'est
You and
une
the
longue
Cannes
histoire d'amour
Festival are a long love story with a wonderful future.
Qu'est-ce
What did you feel when you were announced that your film would be screened at the heart of the 75th Cannes Film Festival anniversary?
Pas du tout.
Well, I didn't know at all
Cette cérémonie, mais c'est vrai
what the
qu'hier,
ceremony would be like. But yesterday, Thierry Frémaux pulled out a paper and started to call on the people sitting in the room. He called us to the rostrum. Guillermo Toro, the Dardenne brothers,
tout le monde est monté sur scène.
everyone went up to on stage, and I thought, gosh, what's this all about? Is this a dream or what? It's very strange.
Moi, j'arrive avec un
It
film.
might have been a
On est
nightmare.
quand même à une forme de
My
modestie, quand même.
film is a fairly modest one.
Je me suis dit à un moment donné, il va dire ah,
I
Federico Fellini arrive aussi. Je
Well,
disais, ah, tout le
he
monde.
called on Fellini, he was calling on everyone, Truffaut, Pasolini. I thought, my goodness, this is horrendous.
Complètement, c'était abyssal. Et en plus de ça, c'est non seulement ça, c'est qu'il a fait monter tout le
And
monde sur scène.
moreover, he got everyone to come up on stage. We were about 80 people, Joachim Trier,
Bernal, ils étaient tous là. Je me suis dit, mais c'est pas possible.
Bernal, just about
Ça s'arrêtait pas
everyone.
en plus. Il y avait
And there was no end to it.
monté sur scène,
And he
il m'a mis devant comme
asked me to come on stage. He put me right in the front, gave me the microphone, and said, well, how do you feel now that your film is being screened?
Heureusement que, je sais pas, heureusement qu'il y avait les gens au premier étage.
Fortunately, there were people up in the balcony.
Sauvez-moi.
And I thought,
Non, c'était une situation honnêtement.
help me, save me.
Mais allez, à la fois, c'était bon.
It wasn't a very comfortable situation, but it was such a deep honor,
Bizarrement.
and I felt tremendous joy.
Peut-être eu beaucoup d'empathie pour moi.
I think they have a lot of empathy for me.
Pauvre mec.
They all thought, oh,
Et du coup, ils ont eu une empathie pour le film. Parce que moi,
so
je
they had
pensais
a
à
lot
mon
of
film,
empathy
je-
for the film. I was thinking of my
C'était
film.
fantastique pour lui d'être
It
regardé.
was fantastic
Bizarrement, pas parce que c'était toutes
that
des
all these
célébrités,
people
c'était
were
peut-être le
watching the
Festival de
film, all
Cannes.
these so well-known people. What's fantastic at the festival is that it's international
Du monde entier.
and that people from around the world come.
Ouais, il est
So I
regardé.
thought, wow, the film is being watched by people from all four corners of the
Et
world.
en plus, il y avait tout ça et ma mère.
And not only that, there was my mother as well.
On dirait carrément une blague.
What a joke.
Juste avant de vous donner la parole, elle avait lu le scénario.
Had she read the screenplay? Had she read the script?
Oui,
Yes.
elle n'a pas découvert.
She didn't discover it yesterday, but she did in a way.
Mademoiselle.
Bonjour, donc je suis Clémentine Abadi du média Road to Cinéma. Donc déjà félicitations pour le film.
Congratulations on the
Aujourd'hui,
film.
au Festival de Cannes. Mais
It's been
évidemment,
screened
un
at the
film ne
Cannes
se fait pas tout
Festival.
seul, et je pense aussi
You
à
don't
la
make a
production.
film all by
Comment
yourself. I'm
vous avez,
thinking
accueilli
about
ce
the
film quand
producers.
Louis Garrel vous l'a proposé. Enfin, en tout cas, comment est née cette
Anouk,
collaboration?
How
Et
did
avant que ce
this
soit
work
le
together
résultat
come
du film
about? And
aujourd'hui,
Dominique,
quels ont
how
été
did
les
this
gros
work come
challenges
about? What were the main
de ce tournage?
challenges in the actual shooting of the film?
Alors, j'ai produit le premier film
I
de
produced Louis Garrel's first film, Two Friends, in 2015. The film was presented at the Semaine de la Critique in 2015 here in Cannes. And then we thought, obviously, about making another film together. The first time Louis talked to me about this project, but it was really in an embryonic state, was just after Two Friends in 2015, and now we're 2022. So it's come a long way in terms of being written and maturing.
parce que ça a affiné
I think this has been very beneficial.
pour ce film-là.
It made Louis better understand the film.
Il a fait
When writing the script, there were lots of ups and downs. He made 2 other films. In the meantime, he acted in lots of other films.
L'écrivain Tanguy Viel, ils ont coécrit
And
ensemble.
then Tanguy Viel co-wrote the script. Things stopped. They started again.
La dernière ligne droite est intervenue. Donc il y a eu
Then there
énormément
was just the final stretch. There were lots of different stages in the making of the film, and almost 7 years elapsed.
savoir s'adapter.
For a producer, you have to adapt. You have to be able to wait.
Sur l'affinage et la maturation de ce film.
What was really interesting is to see how the film gradually matured over this time.
Bénéfique et que ça
I
a
believe
permis vraiment
it was very beneficial, and it was possible to put his finger on what really counted because so much time had gone by.
Non, évidemment, t'es confirmé, oui. Non, Dominique est très
Dominique
forte dans la lecture des scénarios. Ça, quand
is
un
very
metteur en
good
scène,
at reading script.
on s'emporte. Quand on
Sometimes
écrit.
directors get carried away, and Dominique, when she reads scripts, she immediately focuses on the 2 or 3 essential things.
Spécialiste dans le cinéma,
People who are specialized in the cinema sometimes are not naive enough. I think what's most difficult when you make a
la
film
première projection avec autant de gens dans une
is the
salle,
most difficult moment is the first screening in a room with so many people, and all these people are totally naive when they watch the film.
c'est sa plus grande qualité de productrice, à mon sens.
She's an outstanding producer because she's always naive, as though she's watching the film for the first time.
Quand on fait des films, on devient
When you
obsessif.
make a film, you become obsessive over tiny little details. And it's as though she was an inspector of the film, and she watches the film like a spectator does.
Il se rapprochait dans la salle.
And she knows exactly what the reaction is going to be when there's a real audience.
Poser une dernière question.
One last question,
Après, on est obligé de terminer.
because we'll have to wind up.
Peut-être parler de. Je sais que Jean-Claude Carrière n'a pas vraiment
Jean-Claude Carrière
travaillé sur ce film, mais
didn't really
ça a
work on
été
the film,
vraiment un
but,
magnifique compagnon de route pour vous.
I
Et je
think
crois qu'il
he's
vous a suggéré
accompanied you
une
throughout
petite
your
idée,
career.
un plan quand même. Je crois pas me tromper.
Oui, parce que
I
Jean-Claude
think he did
incitait
inspire you certain things.
la leçon de. J'ai eu la chance de
I
côtoyer
was
Jean-Claude,
very
avec qui je suis devenu
fortunate
ami, c'était comme un rôle
to
d'épaule.
get to know Jean-Claude. We're good friends.
Je voyais que son obsession, lui, c'était de
He
dire.
was
Lui, il était vraiment un
obsessed
narrateur,
because
pur narrateur.
he was
L'obsession, c'était de
a
dire,
real storyteller.
la scène suivante ne doit jamais être anticipée
He
par
always
les
said
spectateurs.
that
C'est
the
un
next
réflexe
scene
avec-
should never be foreseen by the spectator.
Il avait de temps en temps des idées très visuelles et c'est lui qui, à la
He
fin, m'a dit,
also was very
qu'il est au
visual in his
cimetière et
work.
qu'il doit,
He said when he's in
livrer
a
le caviar,
cemetery,
ce serait bien qu'il y ait un petit chat
it's good if
lèche
there's
sur
a
son pantalon
little
caviar. Donc, quand j'ai vu
cat
le film hier,
that
j'ai dit, ah,
goes
ça,
by.
c'est la dernière idée de
I
scénario de
thought,
Jean-Claude
wow,
Carrière.
that's a fantastic idea. A little cat in a cemetery who comes to lick one's shoes.
Je vous remercie et je
Thank
voudrais
you
que
very
vraiment
much.
vous applaudissiez
I think you deserve a real round of applause.
ce merveilleux film.
It's a wonderful film.